we would have all been absolutely branded as witches. What's happened is that we have really taken on into ourselves, into our DNA, into our collective consciousness, this witch wounding, because inside, even though we might be able to rationalize it, we have this deep collective pain and wounding and story that it's actually really dangerous to show up, to do something, to lead when you work in these realms. I think Samhain's a perfect time for us to really look back at what our ancestors went through and the lineage for simply being a woman. Women who didn't even identify as witches, but who were branded a witch. So at Samhain time, we can look back at all of the ways our ancestors couldn't show up, because we can now, and we need to do it for them. Now is a time to reclaim your leadership as that coach, healer, space holder, to embrace who you are, to embrace your purpose and your voice, the parts of you that you've been afraid of, and to embrace your ability to speak up now because we can. Welcome to the Wildflow podcast with me, Charlotte Puanto, an award-winning menstrual cycle coach and priestess, and the founder of First Moon Circle School. I guide women to honor and embrace their sacred cycles in their life, leadership, and business. Let's say hi to more ease and flow by co-creating with your body, and goodbye to struggle and burnout. This podcast features soul-enriching conversations, inspiring you to love your cycle, lead as a sacred leader, and grow a life and business that serves you by harnessing cyclical life and business practices. Join me and other change makers, thought leaders, and wise women to embrace and embody your wild flow. Hi, and welcome to Wild Flow with me on this beautiful Samhain day in the Southern Hemisphere. Today is the 1st of May, and it is Halloween here. This is the portal time of what would be Halloween at this seasonal time in the Northern Hemisphere. It's deep autumn. We are in the final throes of autumn now, with winter on the horizon. Samhain is the end of autumn, like I say, and it's the end of the growth cycle, where the growth cycle begins at winter solstice. Now is the season of, we've been doing the harvest, and now it's about really letting go of everything else that hasn't grown or has grown, and we are weeding out what is left, what is done, what is grown, what is spent, and taking what's good, the gold, the treasures of the season, and leaving behind everything else, and letting it compost, rot, decay, die, letting all of that nutrient return back to the earth so that it can feed the new growth cycle, which will start in about 7 weeks or so. I'm not actually sure how long, but it'll be around the 21st, 22nd of June in the Southern Hemisphere is the winter solstice. So yeah, about 7 weeks until the start of the new cycle. So from now until then, it's really about letting go. It's about acknowledging who you are now, taking stock, looking at how much you've grown and accomplished over this past year. So whatever you were doing at the end of June would have been your New Year intentions when we take this Southern Hemisphere cycle view, not it being the Gregorian calendar way. So really looking at what you've accomplished, what has worked, what hasn't worked, acknowledging all the growth that you've been through, everything that's shifted, and really giving way now until this winter solstice time over the next few weeks to really vision into, okay, how can we really think about letting fully go like the leaves do at this time, like nature does? How can we think about slowing down, taking stock, and thinking about, who we want to be in the next growth cycle, but not really stepping into action yet. That is for the June time. And at Samhain, it's known as the Witch's New Year. So it's the seasonal Halloween, Witch's New Year. The Witch's New Year because they the witches are the people who live by the seasons and cycles, and they appreciate that this is the end of the cycle. Samhain has been traditionally celebrated by honoring ancestors. So, making a place at the dinner table for the beloved departed, the wise and healed ancestors, welcoming them in, giving thanks for the legacy that they left, giving thanks for everything that they did to create what we've inherited today in terms of the lifestyle, our rights, our freedoms, our environment, our culture, our values, all of the things that we inherit from our ancestors that get passed down, that shape us, and that long-term view are to be given thanks for at this time. People would line their pockets with cakes, be like have them there in their pockets as a gift for any spirits who might come to visit, to pay thanks, to give thanks, and to also request that the trickster spirits leave them be, leave them alone. So at this time of year, it's a really beautiful thing to honor ancestors, to remember the legacy that we've inherited, and to think as well about the legacy that we're leaving, and to think about what it means for us to be good ancestors, ancestors now and ancestors in the future. I love this time of year. I think it's really special. It's just got cold here. It's like nature knows. I always admire this every Sabbath, which comes around about every 7 weeks or so. When we notice that we have these 8 seasonal points, not just 4, we can really attune to nature and notice just how much nature knows. Nature knows what's up. It's like clockwork. Like we're the ones who are a bit slack and we can be late. We can try and force nature to work on our schedule, but actually nature's got it down pat. Like literally yesterday it got really cold. For the first time I thought, oh blimey, winter's coming. Where I live in the Southern Highlands, we do get frosts. A woman came to my women's circle at the weekend and said she'd already had a frost in her garden. We haven't yet where I live, but it really, really won't be long. It's dark until really about 7 o'clock in the morning, even on a beautiful, bright, sunny day like it is today. And it's cold and dark, definitely by 5 o'clock. And then the nights are cool. You really need a proper duvet already, a blanket. And I'm wearing layers. I've got my woolly tights on today. I went and bought them yesterday. I needed some new ones. And I've got I've got layers on. So it's quite interesting. Today I'm on cycle day. Hang on, I've lost it. 20, is it 26 or 27? Yeah. So right at the end of my cycle. And I'm been feeling this cycle's been really full on for me. I've had a huge amount going on. It's been school holidays for 3 weeks. My kids have just gone back to school today. That's why this podcast, I'm recording it quite late. I'm just going to put this straight out today. Whereas I try to be organized, I'm just not the most I'm not the best at like pre-planning and pre-batching loads of content. Sometimes life just isn't like that. And so you just have to do what you can do, and that is enough. Um, yeah, I started off this cycle with the awards, the coaching awards. And so I did not get a restful bleed at all like I usually would. Yeah, it's been pretty full on. We didn't really do anything over the holidays, but my kids still demand, plenty. And I've been doing lots of behind the scenes work on my business and running as well the First Moon Facilitator training, which we're just wrapping up. We've got the closing next week. We just had the last module calls this week. And so, yeah, that feels very seasonally appropriately timed as well. And I'm making way for something new, which feels seasonal for me as well. I've got my cyclical business mastermind that's just opening applications now, and we're going to start in June when I get back from the UK. Tomorrow, actually, I'm hopping on an aeroplane and flying to the Northern Hemisphere, which is going to be a bit trippy. I think it's been pretty cold there and a bit miserable, but apparently it's just starting to get glimpses of sunshine and warmth. And I'm hoping that by the end of May, when I come home, it will feel like spring. So it's going to throw me a little bit in seasonally, but it'll be nice to kind of extend that warmth a little bit before I come back and it's like proper winter. So today, yeah, I'm not feeling, despite all of this busyness, that I've got any sort of PMS signs. I do feel tired. I do feel like I'm slowing down. But what's interesting is on Sunday after I held my women's circle, I woke up feeling I was like, am I just energetically tired and drained? Or am I coming down with something? And then the following day after that, I was like, oh, I think I've got a cold. And today I've got a little bit of a cough. And my voice is a bit croaky. It's pretty early this morning. I always get morning voice. So you're getting a full dose of morning voice. This is me showing up imperfectly, and just, yeah, expressing what's on my heart, what wants to be expressed at this time. And so this feels really pleasurable and joyful for me to be sharing today, and not like a burden, like I must squeeze it out before my bleed comes, or even when my voice is a bit croaky. I'm just going to really look after myself. This is the very last thing I'm doing before I'm going to go have lunch with my husband today. And then, yeah, packing up tomorrow, getting on an aeroplane by myself, no husband, no kids. My sister's going as well. And I'm going to spend 3 beautiful weeks in England seeing family. Um, and I'm hosting a couple of events over there too, which I absolutely cannot wait for. So, yeah, this next cycle is hopefully going to be feel quite free, adventurous, um, definitely a bit unstable, complete change of routine and season, and mothering from afar and trying to be okay with that. um, and yeah, hopefully slower, even though my cycle is going to be quite disrupted, probably at first because of the time zone shift. So let's see how that goes. Today, I want to talk, though, more about Samhain and about what it is that we explored in the women's circle, the ceremony that I held at the weekend, because it's such a powerful theme and it's so tied to what I've been talking about that I really want to bring this to you. So let's talk about the witches. Who are the witches? I really invite you to feel what comes up for you when you hear the word witch. Like witch. It's got some really sharp and strong sounds in it, doesn't it? And for me, it's like witch. And it's just a powerful word. And automatically, even though, I've done a lot of work on the witch identity and archetype, still the very first vision that pops up in my mind is like green with warts on her nose, and she's like cackling, and she's here to do bad things and you know hurt people, create chaos. um and I know full well that the witch is an archetype or an identity that has been completely corrupted and tabooed, because the witches originally have always been the women who are the healers, the herbalists, the naturopaths of old, the midwives, the women who've taught the cycle mysteries, so taught about bleeding and taught about fertility, who've taught about, hormone health and curing ills with, natural remedies, the women who know which herbs to collect from the garden to make suitable medicines and tinctures and teas, the women you'd go to for advice on pretty much anything, the women who hold the mysteries, certainly of sexuality and eroticism and, yeah, holding their own sexual power. Um, the women who would have held rites and ceremonies and circles, the women who would have gathered others to honor stages of life and to pass wisdom on in all traditions, And the women who would have really honored the moon and the seasons and the cycles and understood intrinsically what nature is doing as a cue, as a mirror of ourselves. And so how we can, you know, provide enough food to live around the year, even outside of the growing season, who would have been the kitchen witch, the cook in some cases, any kind of woman who had any kind of knowledge to share that was in the women's way, would have been maybe not self-identified as a witch, but would have come under the witch umbrella. And the word witch, it originates from the word wisdom, which is about holding the women's traditions, the women's oral stories and mysteries, and passing it down through the generations. And this can be found in herstory, which is not history. History is told by the dominating white male colonizing patriarchal point of view. Herstory is the lost story of the women and all of the hardships that women have gone through, as well as all of the triumphs that women have had. I mean, how often do we see like a woman invented something and then it was actually the man who got all the credit for it? Herstory is about understanding where women's wisdom has been tabooed so that women lost power, lost rights, lost land, lost status, lost autonomy and sovereignty over their own body and their reproductive rights. And it's all been transferred to men over time. So the way that women used to be the healers and the midwives, for example, that was made illegal for women to do. And then they decided to patriarchalize it and turn it into a university study path where women, of course, were not allowed to attend. It became clinical. It became completely devoid of natural healing as well. They didn't listen to any of the known wisdom that women held and were practicing, and it all became about power over. It became about knowing better. It became about men having control over women's bodies and women's rights, particularly, and locking women out of these healing jobs. And over time, we have seen so many rights abused, so much harm done by this complete disconnection from our own bodies. And this is history, how we have been shamed. It's been dangerous to really hold this knowledge and to share this knowledge. And what really did it in was all the witch woundings, the witch burnings, the hangings that took place over a few hundred years in the last millennia across Europe, into America, in many places around the world. Being a witch meant that you would be killed. If someone even suspected you of being a witch, if somebody pointed the finger and you couldn't deny it, you would have been killed as a witch. So anyone listening who does anything even remotely woo-woo, space holding, coaching, healing, working in the cycle realm, fertility realm, the body realm, the intuitive realm particularly, they would have all been absolutely branded as witches. And so what's happened is that we have really taken on into ourselves, into our DNA, into our collective consciousness or unconsciousness, consciousness, I'd say as well, this witch wounding, where if we are known to be dabbling in this magic, this black magic, then we are terrified of it because inside, even though we might be able to rationalize it today in our awareness and our consciousness, we have this deep collective pain and wounding and story that it's actually really dangerous to show up, to do something, to lead when you work in these realms. I think Samhain's a perfect time for us to really look back at what our ancestors went through and the lineage of women before who were oppressed and silenced and harmed or even killed for simply being a woman. Women who didn't even identify as witches, but who were branded a witch and therefore suffered, the most terrible consequences, torture and death. Because what we have now is a world where it's not just like acceptable to be woo woo. Like it's pretty fun and it's pretty encouraged, and people are seeking out, and we can make livelihoods from just reclaiming what has been lost. So it's Samhain time we can look back at all of the ways our ancestors couldn't show up because we can now, and we need to do it for them. Now is the time to reclaim your leadership as that coach, healer, space holder, the guide, the mentor, the whatever niche you work in or specialty within that. And to embrace what you do, to embrace who you are, to embrace your purpose and your voice, the parts of you that you've been afraid of, and to embrace your ability to speak up now because we can. Our bodies might tell us it's unsafe, but actually it's not. It is time and it is safe. This is how we reclaim the feminine and all that has been lost. It is time for us to show up and serve. We need to do what we can do now for our ancestors who couldn't. The witch wound often plays out in our voice. Our voice can close up. Our voice can shut down. I think it's so interesting. I'm going to tell you about what we did at this circle on Saturday, because my voice is now croaky today. But anyway, it's so energetic. When we become disconnected from our voice, which represents our truth, which represents who we really are, which represents what we're here to do, our throat can constrict. Have you ever noticed that you want to speak up, you want to say something particularly true or a little bit uncomfortable, and your voice kind of shuts down on you? Your throat squeezes up a little bit, your voice goes a bit croaky, and you need to take a moment and cough. That happens to me. My throat used to be so constricted, like it was like I was talking through the smallest airway in my throat. And the thought of speaking up and speaking out used to really terrify me. It takes a lot of work to reclaim the voice, and we have to work with the body to liberate all of the ways that we have learned that it's unsafe and that we need to be quiet. And I believe in doing this through the body. So this is what we were doing in ceremony at the weekend as well, because I brought this theme to the ceremony and we had a huge circle. We had 21 women there, and we really, I'll tell you a little bit more about the process that we actually did, because I'm going to share it with you. But I really invited the women to feel into how the witch lives in them, whether it's an identity they hold or just an archetype that lives within all of our psyches that we can access at any time, to explore how this witch wounding lives through us, where we're holding back, playing small and not claiming our power, where we're giving it away. Playing small, playing safe, staying in our safe, cushioned little box in order to not feel the danger of being labeled a witch on some levels. So I do think that it's really energetic. Look at how my voice is playing out today. I don't think I'm actually sick. I think this is all energetic. The reason being, I don't feel sick. If my throat wasn't playing up and constricted, I'd actually feel fine. This is energetic for me. This is what I was liberating and have been working with. And it's been a real journey for me to own my voice and to speak up, even when I feel like I'm going to be rejected or judged. I used to, for most of my life, just be quite quiet. Like at school, I would just want to blend into the background. Even at home, I just didn't want to speak up. It was just safer for me to be quiet. And I just felt so afraid most of my life for speaking. And it was really when I started this podcast nearly 3 years ago that everything completely broke through for me. I was terrified of the sound of my voice. And yet I pushed myself to start a podcast because I knew it would be strategic for my business, to help me grow my profile, to help me grow my thought leadership, to help me to connect and to collaborate with others, to help me serve my beautiful community in a powerful way that's free of charge, easily accessible for anybody, where we can share this wisdom. But I also knew that because I was terrified of speaking up, that this was going to be a really powerful way of me healing my relationship with my voice, to step out of the shadows as a wallflower, to speak up for what I believe in, and to practice expressing myself and stepping into my own leadership. And wow, has this served me? I think I've let go of all shreds of being a wallflower. I'm no wallflower now, let me tell you. I've done hundreds of hours on this podcast and as a guest on others, teaching in other people's programs as well, showing up left, right, and center online and in person, and also leading my in person ceremonies and stepping deeper and deeper into my work as a ceremonialist and claiming this year myself as a priestess is just such big work for me to step out of fear of what it means if I make myself known as a priestess. What does that mean? Like, who's going to judge me? Like, I felt really quite scared of that. Like, what a thing to call yourself. No one's going to get that. Um, and priestesses, are the people who hold this role of and function of holding ceremony as spiritual teacher and guide, of creating and holding the rites, which is absolutely what I do. I've been doing my women's circles for it'll be 6 years later this year. And my circles have evolved so much. I started off with a script. I started off like word for word, having all of my notes, like scripting all of my meditations, and really kind of just testing out what was working. Women would come and then we'd decide, we'd feel into whether we were a fit for each other. And those that weren't didn't come back. And that was fine. I've survived. My circles have just evolved. And over the years, I've found when I've reached a plateau that I've started to feel a bit out of integrity or a bit bored with how I'm doing my circles. And I realized that I wasn't bored. I just was holding back and I was getting sick of myself, sick of holding back. And I've known that over these years, it's been a real calling for me to step forwards in my community in person as well as online, to say, here I am. I'm not afraid of myself. This is what I'm capable of. This is what I'm going to call you into as well if you come towards me and work with me. And claiming this title of priestess, only a few months ago it gave me so much like shivers and like contractions and I'm just really not sure. But the more that I found safety in a community of other priestesses too, the more I've been learning the art and craft and the diving into the initiations of the priestess path, and the more I've been deeply studying what it means to hold ceremony, temple space, not just circles, but really alchemical, transformational, potent ceremonial space as well, the more I have found safety in claiming this role for myself. Because when we do anything by ourselves, it can feel really huge and scary. And as soon as you surround yourself with other people who get it and are on the same path, you're like, oh, what was the big deal? Like, you get it, I have safety here. Um, and we can find support in those spaces to step into who we really are. And now I feel really proud of being, knowing that I'm here to be a priestess. So priestess, witch, I've tossed up, over the years, which one I identify with most. It has been both at one time. Sometimes it's other. I identify now as a priestess, but I fully welcome my inner witch, the archetype of the witch that lives within me. And she holds so many gifts, so much potent medicine in me to work with the witch. So even if you don't identify as the witch, I really encourage you to tap into your inner witch archetype and to play with how she shows up in you, to experience, to feel, to really get intimate with what she's showing you about where you're holding back. This work has been a continuous journey of meeting my edges and exploring what I'm really called to do, trusting myself that I'm safe enough to be fully me, to speak up, be seen, and do the thing that not everyone is going to get at all, far from it. But let me tell you, when your people and your true soul family see you standing in your power and they see you showing up authentically, unafraid to be your full magical self, they actually come running towards you. They feel seen too. You give them permission and they desire to be in your energy as the leader that you are. So, this witch archetype can really give us the key to overcoming our disconnection from our voice, to use our voice to reclaim our truth and our full magical self, and to step into leadership. But when we hold the witch wound, it can shut us down so much. As I say, this deep fear that lives within us. Sometimes we can trace it back to childhood and early experiences, and sometimes we can't. Maybe it's come through your DNA, your foremothers who suffered for being women, or even more so for being healers, or wise women. Sometimes it's past life. You might be trapped in a cycle that you need to complete by fulfilling your soul's mission here, right now on the earth in this lifetime, so that you don't keep replaying these patterns in future as well. When you recognize that you are a witch, whether it's the identity or the archetype, whether it's the role that you hold, you can recognize how you are holding yourself back from this deeply embodied fear. I also think it's not as simple as changing your thoughts. It's about creating real safety in your body so you can feel safe by yourself, in yourself, to show up and do what you're here to do. And it's also about healing the sister wound, which is the fear of being betrayed by women, by those who should be standing in solidarity and celebrating you, just like women were forced to turn on each other during the witch burning days to save themselves. This is something that I think just absolutely plays out through the witch wound, the sister wound. Allowing yourself to be seen, heard, and supported by other women can be extremely vulnerable and downright triggering for some women. The fear of judgment, the fear of being seen as a fraud, the exposure of not having your shit together, the fear of being ostracized, excluded, harmed is very real. And if you've had a lived experience of this in childhood, which I find it really interesting that even though this is like an ancient thing, like it still plays out today. We still see examples of the wounded sisterhood, of children perpetuating these patterns, often handed down by their mothers as comments through role modeling behavior, but also just lives in our psyche, this divide and conquer approach. And so finding our people, finding solidarity with women where we can practice being vulnerable, where we can practice being ourselves, is also really healing. And this is such an important reason as to why I created this cyclical business mastermind, to create a safe and sacred group space for a select handful of women healers and coaches who are here to stop hiding, who are here to show up and embody the leader that they're here to be, so they can grow a business that affords them ease and flow and abundance, as well as an income that makes your business sustainable. I find that, as I say, when you're in space with other women who get it, we can really use it as a cocoon, a safe space to practice being vulnerable, to practice speaking our truth, to practice our ideas, to step into leadership. And so that's why in this mastermind space, it's not just going to be me as the coach and lead that's going to be holding you, but the other women too. I really believe in the power of sisterhood and of the circle way. So I'm making this incredibly rich experience that allows you to soften into the space and be held there with women who are absolutely here for your vulnerability and your big magic. Women who won't cut you down or judge you or shame you or ostracize you. Women who get it because they are you. And those women who will thank you for your truth and authenticity, your leadership, and your willingness to show up anyway, even when it feels hard, because together we rise and we reclaim. So if you experience the witch wound, I really encourage you to do some work on it at this time of year, particularly, especially if you get particularly intense self doubt, imposter, or inner critic This might show up for you in your luteal phase. It might just show up for you anytime that you speak up and expose yourself, whenever you want to put yourself out there. So what does the witch wound look like? It will show up as judgments or thoughts or feelings that make you like contract. So like your body language might round out, you might bring your arms over your chest, you might kind of avert your gaze and look down and literally make yourself small. And the thoughts and feelings are to do with being harmed, being judged. What will people think? What will they say? What would it mean if I showed up in this way? Who's going to get me? Someone's going to tear me down. I've had that belief for a long time. I don't now because of all this work I've been doing, but for a long time I had this thought of someone is going to come and tear me down, and it's going to be like a death of some sorts if they do. Woo, that just made me have to like pause the recording and cough. Ah, see, it's energetic, right? I say, who am I to do this? Someone's going to come and tear me down. And I start coughing. It really does live on in us. I don't have this thought anymore. It doesn't pop into my head, but it still lives on in my body, obviously, in some ways. And so, doing this work of reclaiming my witch self, my priestess self, to find safety, to acknowledge these fears, to see it for what it is, and to question it is how we step through it. And we build confidence, we build resilience by building evidence that we are safe and that we can do these things. So that's how it shows up for me. How does it show up for you? Sometimes for me, it's like also, oh, I'm going to put myself out there. I'm going to launch something. I'm going to share something. Usually in my premenstrual phase, I'll transition from summer into autumn. So it's like day 21, day 20, day 19, even sometimes, depending on when I ovulated. And I get this like, why is this worth it? No one cares anyway. No one's listening. No one hears me. And it's such a, when I hear it now, I go, oh, there we go again. Yeah, sure, whatever. This is not real. I know this is just a story. It's just this energy that is released in me that bubbles up to the surface when my hormones change and I reach this time of my cycle, every cycle, whether I'm launching or not. And so, how does it show up for you? What is this? What is the flavor of your inner critic or your imposter? What is the message that this doubt is bringing to you? Because it's not about you, it's about keeping you safe. It's your nervous system responding when you're feeling like you're expanding your capacity, or when you are moving out of your comfort zone, when you're lifting your head above the parapet. What is it that comes up for you? Because you can see what kind of stories you're telling yourself, but ultimately underneath it, it goes back to this lack of safety that comes from the witch wound. So here's what I like to guide people through. And I did this in the circle with the women the other night. And when I guide clients through it, we do it in a really slow, embodied way. We'll move our bodies. We will make sounds. It's all about breathing. It's all about reclaiming the sound of your voice, the sound of your body, and letting your body express itself. But some general questions for you here that you can reflect on and maybe do your own practice instead of one that I'm guiding you through. These are the questions. So as you experience these feelings, I invite you to pause and take a breath and sit back and stop what you're doing and just give yourself the gift of a few moments. Listen to the voices, the fear, the judgments. What are the words? Because when we just aren't aware of it, when they just flow through us and it's like we're listening to a voice, but we're not actually taking a moment to see what's going on here, to recognize that it's all coming from within. Pause, stop, and take a step back. And just look at what these stories are. What are the fears and judgments that come over you? What are you hearing? Just name it. You might write it down. You might just say, oh, interesting. I'm having a thought that if I put this out into the world, I'm going to be so judged and shamed that the feeling of shame is going to be like hot prickles all through my body. And I hate that feeling because that reminds me of when I felt that shame before. Or, or if I do that, someone's going to come and tear me down and I'm going to feel like I need to run and hide. And then notice where in your body these fears and judgments live. So, do they live in a particular place? If you close your eyes, where in your body do they live? Do they live around your heart? Is it coming from your throat? Is it down in your womb? Is it up in your head? And you'll know where it's coming from because it will be where your body is speaking to you. Where are you feeling sensations? There might be part of you that is closing up, tightening, getting like nervous butterflies. Um, your throat might be getting tight. Your head might be racing. Your gut might suddenly feel queasy. Your feet might start to tingle like you want to run. Where in your body do you feel it? And what is the sensation associated with it? Also, does it have a temperature or a texture or a color that can be helpful as well to tune into? And then go to this part of your body. No need to dive right into the middle of this sensation, but just observe from a healthy distance. And ask this part of your body, ask the energy that is alive there, what does it want to tell you? What's it trying to tell you? Do you feel unsafe? Anger? Like it's so unfair? Ask this energy what it needs to be acknowledged. What's it trying to tell you? What's it bringing up for you to acknowledge? Do you see how we're not just going, oh, like I'm having this thought, but I'm barely even paying attention to it and I'm just pushing on? No, we're actually taking the time to go, okay, you need witnessing. You need to be heard. This is about hearing yourself because we never hear ourselves. We never acknowledge our feelings unless we make a real practice of it. Nobody else will. So we do it for ourselves. And then after we have acknowledged this and heard this, can we say things like, I hear you. I hear you. This is what you're feeling. Is there anything else underneath that? Any other layers? This can bring up a lot of emotion. So this is why I guide clients through it in a really healthy, safe and trauma-informed way, where we can just gently titrate this process as we experience and liberate and acknowledge all that is there. But you can do this in your own time and in your own way if you like. Then it's about finding safety in the body. So, okay, as we're feeling all of these sensations, how can we feel safe in our body at this moment? What does safety feel like? What is the sensation of safety and where does that live within you? And as we attune to what safety feels like, it might be like space, a breath, like the solid ground beneath me, calming, soothing, like the earth is holding me, like the great mother is holding me. Whatever it is to you, tune into where it lives in your body and now breathe into that and grow that feeling and send it all around your body. So, first we acknowledge the pain and what is there, the fear, and then we call on safety. Okay, it is safe for me to feel these feelings because I am actually safe and I can feel safe in myself. From this place, if you're ready, and this can take many, many goes, if you then feel safe, we can practice opening up your throat to sound your body, to let out the noises that your body has been holding on as we access these feelings and as we access safety. What comes out of your mouth? I want you to get out of your head and into your body. And as you grow that feeling of safety, open your throat up, soften your pelvic floor, your yoni, your cervix, and your belly. Move your hips, soften your jaw, relax your tongue, and just let yourself breathe. This might start off as being teeny tiny little sighs, exhales that you're just making. This might be more audible, more active exhales. And it can become groans or shouting or wails or screams or shrieks. It could be delightful, ecstatic, pleasurable noises too. Whatever's in your body, can we just let your body sound? The more we can get out of our head and out of those fear of judgments and into our bodies, the more we can let our these stories, this witch wounding, this fear of our voices, this fear of speaking up, we can move with it, we can work with it, we can build resilience, we can practice, and we can build our capacity to speak up. And this is one of the core practices I've been doing over the last few years. So I'm a feminine embodiment coach, which is why I really work with these embodied practices so much. And yes, mindset I think is really important, but the body holds so much and our brains take information from our bodies. So when we do mindset work, yes, that's great, but and we can go so far, but it's the body that holds the root of all of our nervous systems um, responses to threatening situations. So when we work with the body, we can really practice, liberate, express, strengthen, transform, alchemize energy. We can really come into our power. This is just a taste of the work that we'll be doing in the mastermind. As I say, I do it with my clients. I did it in the Samhain Circle the other day. I guide my private clients to do this in sessions. And I'm going to be really inviting clients to do this in the mastermind too. We can do it in group. I'm also going to be recording some longer audio practices for clients to be able to play and do at home in their own time. So really holding you not just in the nuts and bolts and strategy of like, okay, how do I create an offer? How do I launch an offer? How do I create a profile? How do I create content? How do I grow a community? How do I actually put all these modalities and trainings I've got into practice and expand your business where you might have been winging it and just trying and trial and error, seeing what works. Like if you're going to get serious about making this an actual business that works, when so many coaches and healers come to this space, but when you don't get business training, it's you're not actually got what you need to make this work for the long term. But it's very possible, and I'm here to show you how to do this. I really want to call women into their power, to step forward as leaders, to own their worth and their magic as business women who are here to serve. Because when women show up in this embodied, sovereign way, we really create incredibly powerful change. We're not just having a business to extract. We are here to create ripples of change. And we need to have this knowledge, this know-how to make it actually work. And of course, I'm all about doing it in cyclical ways, holding the body's capacity, expanding that capacity, doing that deeper work, the inner work that lives in the body through embodiment, through reclaiming your relationship with your cycle, through nurturing yourself, through going at your own pace. So this is what we're going to be doing in the mastermind. And just a quick couple of client cases. Fairly recently, I had an incredible experience with one particular client who, as we were working together, we started off looking at, redressing masculine, feminine balance. Like, how can we trust ourselves? How can we have a business that really reflects and supports who they are and what they are doing, especially through a transitional phase of their life. And then in later sessions, they lost their voice through sickness, just as we started to work on expressing their truth and their boundaries and opening the throat. And as we did this, we met so many of their unmet needs that they hadn't been acknowledged before. So as we acknowledged all of these needs and these feelings and these fears, her voice started strengthening and returning. She started to experiment with expressing her boundaries more, her needs, her desires in life and business, and was able to cultivate so much deep trust in who she is and what her mission is and how she desires to work. So what she's available for and not for. And it was just incredible as a beautiful example because this work comes up for so many of my clients. I can't even tell you how many clients come for one thing. And, we sort of look at these surface level goals, I guess. But as we do the deeper inner work, we go into the body as we need to. And it's this deeper work that then helps us to cultivate trust and resilience and strength and deep knowing inside before we then express and expand that outwards. It's not just in business about getting the strategy, putting things out there. If we're not growing that really solid foundation inside of ourselves, if we're not cultivating our energy to be able to hold what it is that we're putting out there as well. And so this is what I really care about. It comes up for just, yeah, it's so many clients. And so this is why it's something that I'm going to be putting into the mastermind, and continuing to work with my private clients on. It's just one of the things that that I'll be serving up. So lots of embodied practices will be included to help you to move through those blocks on that deeper level to create long-term sustainable change. If you're feeling that this kind of work is for you, that you need to be doing this kind of voice work, if the witch wound is alive in you, but you know that you're here and you're ready to grow your business and your income and your impact, then the Cyclical Business Mastermind could very well be for you. Details on all of the inclusions, the dates, the FAQs are on my website, charlottepuanto.com/mastermind. You can find the link in the show notes as well. And you'll be able to see the incredibly holistic approach that I take to business coaching and why I'm doing this, like I say. There's also an epic early bird that's a real game changer that's available only to those on the waitlist until this Sunday, the 5th of May. You get $300 off. Plus, I'm also putting together a guide to how I easily and cyclically launch my programs, complete with template emails, and giving this to you so that you have got a done for you tangible guide that you can see the strategy behind, like what I'm writing in my emails, when, why, and how, so that you can also take on this process, so that you can launch in your business your offers, your projects, or anything new that you're working on at any point, to make sure that you have an effective and proven strategy that's easeful and supportive for you. Launching doesn't need to feel terrifying or overwhelming like it used to. And I think that launching is something that's so tied to the witch wound. All of these judgments come up. The thought of launching can just make you go, no, 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 I'm just going to hide for a while longer, actually. But launching, because of this framework that I've created and implemented over the last 18 months, it's really increased my sales and income and reduced the brain load and the time and energy that I need to spend working during launches, because it is effective. Now I actually really enjoy launching because this guesswork is over and I know I just get to enjoy really soulfully connecting with my community from a place of deep trust, presence, and service. And I want that for you too, because I know that it's something that if you can find safety in, find a process in, find support with, you're going to get yourself out there as well and change your business long term. So you can secure this guide that is just going to be such a game changer for you, as well as the $300 off if you apply to join the mastermind and then accept your place by this Sunday, the 5th of May. So it's only a few days away. So the mastermind is going to open at the very end of May as we call our circle together. And then June, when I'm back from the UK, is when we're going to officially start and dive in. So really working with this seasonal approach. We're going to spend June really having onboarding one-to-ones, setting some goals and intentions and plans, visioning, casting visions for the next 6 months of our time together in the mastermind before we then really start to manifest and action on those goals around the winter solstice. So if you're ready to grow your income and impact and call in much more ease, to trust in your body and your capacity and grow that capacity to really honor your body, your cycle, your season of life. This is the mastermind that I really believe will support you, because I'm not here to just tell you what to do. I trust your genius, I trust your timing, and I really want you to do the same. I cannot wait to welcome you and a handful of powerful sacred women who step into this circle. So, on this Samhain, I hope that you feel into how the witch wound is playing up for you. This portal is going to last for a few days. So, even if you don't listen to it today, it's alive with you for a few days. Take some time to feel into the energy that lives within you, the blocks and the fears, where it lives, how you can cultivate safety, and what it means for you to have that support circle around you of people who get it and can really hold you in solidarity and cheer you on. There's so much work we need to do around reclaiming these wounds, and it is possible. I am proof of it, and I know that you are proof of it too. And that the more of us that can undo the patriarchal ties that have bound us and kept us small and silent, held back from our full magic, the better the world is going to be. So, blessed Samhain to you. Let me know if you've got any comments, feedback, anything that comes up for you. I'd love to hear from you. You can DM me on Instagram at charlotte.puanto.coach. Check out the mastermind, feel into whether it's for you. I would absolutely love to support you for the next 6 months. Blessed be. Thanks so much for listening to Wild Flow. I love having you here and hope you loved this episode. If you did, please show your love by leaving a rating and review, and share your fave episodes with your cycle and biz sisters and those who haven't yet discovered the power of their body and cycle. This is how we collectively create change and heal the sisterhood. It makes such a difference. Thank you for sharing. Haven't discovered your cyclical leadership style yet? Take my free Much Love quiz now to receive your free in-depth playbook on how to up your sacred leadership, grow your business, and thrive by embodying your cyclical archetype. Go to charlottepuanto.com/quiz now. Until next time, be devoted to your body as guide and your cycle as oracle.